Jesus. And I'm like, why are you thanking Jesus? He's not risking his life. It's the Pleiadians. So, if Jesus suddenly shows up and starts smiting these reptilians and helping these little babies who are being slaughtered, I will have a tremendous amount more respect for him.
Now, you say that astral people are generally clueless about upcoming events, but that they have already seen Planet X coming.
I heard one group of people one time say, we have seen the planet. Whether they were just, I didn't reverse them, so because they were the only ones that I've heard say that. But they did say, we can see the planet. I've asked others, but I think that they weren't able to give, I get very short recordings, and often they'll say the aliens are coming, we got to get out of here.
Francis's friend Sydney have gone through training on the Pleiades after they were taken out, and they are now helping somehow. How is that they are helping?
They got a friend of mine out who passed over just 2 months ago. He was captured immediately. He was Pleiadian. He didn't remember that.
Who is this?
A friend of mine. His name is Wally, and he lived here. He died, and I talked to the people on the other side, and I asked how he was doing, and they said the aliens grabbed him immediately after he died, and that they had him in their house, in one of the houses there as a prisoner. And I talked to the aliens, and they basically said, yeah, he's our prisoner, and they were being very nasty about the whole thing. And the next day, Sydney and Francis zoomed in, grabbed Wally, and got him out. And they got out safely. I was terrified that they were going to be brought down, but they got him out, and even the reptilians couldn't believe that they did it. They succeeded. And I heard from Wally that night on my recordings in this tiny little voice thanking me and telling me how much he appreciated it and how much he loved Nick and I because we had prayed. And it was one of the best days I've had in a long time.
Now, in regard to other reverse speech practitioners, there's the American Association of EVP, and there's David Oates, who originally started a lot of the reverse speech experimentation. David's had a lot of tragedies of his own. And could you talk a little bit about David Oates?
Well, he came up with this, and I think he was very cutting edge because he's the one who really brought this into the forefront. I think he's had a lot of personal he has had a lot of personal tragedies, and I think that he's very careful now. That I don't think he wants to draw any more attention to himself than necessary. He does give training classes. He's more into therapies and things. He's not into anything reptilian. He never did any EVP and didn't know about that or didn't have any interest in that. And so what he's getting is pretty mild compared to what I get.
And Tom and Linda Butler have done EVP, but you say the reversals reveal...
They're talking, Lisa Butler, they're talking to reptilians now. I reverse their EVP, and it's always a reptilian.
Ken Welsh, about 3 weeks ago, had a website that predicted that there was going to be a nuclear device detonated in a ship near the Houston area to predicate a retaliation against the Middle East and maybe Iran. And when you reversed his reversals and the reversals that he had done on Condoleezza Rice and Rumsfeld and others, you correctly identified that he was wrong and that he was guessing, and that did not come to pass. How did you ascertain that conclusion? Because
he refers to the ship, but they're leaving on a ship, and he was hearing about that ship. That was my take on it, and that his reversals when he spoke, because it was hard for me to work with his reversals of Condoleezza Rice, but when I could reverse him, he basically said, "I'm guessing." And then he made a reference to they're leaving in May. And I knew then that when he said twice, "I'm guessing," he was trying to fit an interdimensional thing into a 3D paradigm. A ship, he wouldn't know that the reptilians were leaving on a big ship. So when he hears ship, he's thinking of a ship in the harbor. And he was putting two and two together. I mean, he was really trying to get the good stuff, but he was guessing.
Now, with David Oates, he would hear owl, and he would hear certain animals or different nouns, and he would assign a metaphor to those that were different than the metaphor that you assigned to him.
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit about the differences between you and Oates in regard to the interpretations?
Well, he sees all reversals as parts of the mind, metaphors for different things going on within your mind. And I see them as that plus interdimensional activities. And so when he sees the owl, which is the number one metaphor for this reptilian group, he calls it the higher wisdom of the mind. When he sees snake and serpent as snake being deceptive, serpent being healing. I see it all as talking about these reptilians. The net he sees as confusion within your mind. The net is a frequency around the planet that holds us in. So if you're not looking at things interdimensionally, if you're just seeing them as parts of your psyche, you're going to get different things.
Now, David Icke is probably the most prominent researcher who's well known for his reptilian research now. Originally it was conspiratorial and government control, and it evolved for him into he put the pieces together and came up with the same types of things that you're coming up with. How has reading Icke, if you have read him or speaking with him, how has he influenced you?
I couldn't read David for quite a while. Just couldn't get through it. And I do think he's probably more accurate in his take on this and on the history of this group with the secret societies and all that. Very, very accurate. He's very congruent in reverse. He does not get into the meat-eating aspect of it on the other side, although he does talk about them consuming flesh and blood during their satanic rituals. But that's more of a ritualistic thing. The people on the other side of their daily fare, they have restaurants on the other side that serve human meat. And so, he's got a lot of good information, way more technical thing about their symbols and their, secret societies and their history than I do. But just, that's a big gap, the meat-eating of the astral people. And other than that, I have tremendous respect for David.
Now, David went down to, I guess it was South America, and partook in some ayahuasca tea. And that particular episode led you to make a statement that you thought that Icke may have received some bad information while under the influence of this tea. Can you discuss that a little bit?
He, in his reversals, he talks while he's talking about the voice that he heard speaking to him while under the influence of the tea. He refers to the voice as the serpent, and that she's lying. She's going to he'll lose the facts. That he did say that he was raped while he was under the influence, although he doesn't remember that. And other things that I think that he was told things that were not true, like, for instance, they're not computer programs. He says they're computer programs brought on by the earth, which felt itself cut off from the source, and that's all wrong. He's got up until the ayahuasca tea, he was doing great. Yes, we're all holographic, but I can't comment too much on that. But he's off on some of his key things, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, you also have a problem with channeling now, having done all this research, where before a lot of that channeled information you took to heart.
Right.
Specifically, let's talk about, because this person, Barbara Marciniak, has dealt with the Pleiadians and the reptilians in her book, Bringers of the Dawn. Mm-hmm. Tell me about what you know about Barbara Marciniak, and is Marciniak's Bringers of the Dawn accurate or inaccurate?
I think there's both accuracy and inaccuracy. The grid is not an energy grid; it's a net that holds us in. I think that she talks a lot about the reptilians eating loosh, the energy.